Good morning, everyone. And it says you are live, and it's been a while since I've had a chance to talk with everybody. So it's nice to be back. As some of you may know, I was away for a week, my son's wedding, family time, visiting my daughter, all that kind of stuff. And so now here I am back. Let's get back in the groove. Good morning, Daniel. Let's get back in the groove. Okay. So in case you missed it, joke, we had that sell-off last Friday, not this Friday, the Friday before. Yep, 100%. Whatever, 100%. We had the big sell-off on the 10th. When was it? Well, it wasn't a go back in history. When the first, at the end of the day, when Trump said 100% tariffs on China, now we kind of recovered a little bit. Then vols spiked. It was 20 to 25, 22. Eventually, VIX got over 25, got to 28 in the aftermarket. That's not the one I want to say. I guess to help you relive it. Friday, we had that pre-market peak of 28. Now, as I've explained before, what happens is liquidity is thin in the pre-market. And so as the market makers short, basically got into a short squeeze, they had to buy VX futures kind of at any price, so to speak. That artificially pushed it up. The cash session started, we were near 25. That's the gamma inflection point. And then vol kind of puked throughout the rest of the day on Friday, and we went up. Predictably, vol continued to puke yesterday, and then we went up. The reflexive buyback, plus people just not being afraid. Hedges tend to get monetized quickly in this market. So from what I read, people who are long VIX calls or VIX ETNs that are, long 2x VIX or whatever they are, or VXX, quickly jumped out. And now we're just kind of reestablishing an equilibrium. Briefly, a few times last week, the 9-day VIX, you can't see it here. Briefly, a few times last week, the 9-day VIX popped above the VIX. And so the 9-day VIX is short-term VIX. My dog is passing gas. It's short-term VIX versus the regular VIX, which is 30 days. Now, just to add a little more granularity to the 9-day VIX, what the 9-day VIX does is it looks at the volatility standard computation, which is strips of options, whatever formula they put through it. It's on the CBOE website. If you like to play that game, you can go find it. They look at strips of options for the Friday's bracketing 9 days from now. So bracketing before 9 days from now, which is this Friday, and after 9 days from now, which is next Friday, which I believe includes, so we have the BLS GDP numbers, we have a bunch of earnings, we have FOMC, VIX, all that included in these numbers in the VIX 9 days. So it just so happens that that's a good thing to keep an eye on right now. Here's the futures and 18.61, 19. That looks a little high. These two numbers have to come together. The VIX and the VIX futures have to meet on Wednesday morning, VIX settlement day. This is VIXpiration tomorrow, so VIX options expire. And so we move on, and then we go into the November cycle, which are the nearest term ones that require hedging. So now let's switch gears again. And I wasn't going to show this one. So while we're talking about VIX, before we get to S&P, let's pull up a VIX. It's not exactly a fast pull. We're going to pull up VIX positioning here. This is options depth view, and I have a discount link if you want it. Okay. While that's loading, let's go over here. Let's switch gears back to the S&P 500. Oh, it loaded. No? Okay. So here we are, 67.40. Kind of right where we are now-ish. Give or take a few points, I'm not sure exactly. So I will kind of repeat the process like I like to do every day for the people viewing as well as for myself. Keeping it simple. To the right is market maker long, customer short, customer sold, whatever. And to the left is market maker short, quote unquote, negative gamma. Okay, so when we're approaching a positive gamma strike from below, market makers sell. As we approach, the closer we get, the more they have to sell, the more unbalanced their deltas get. So it's that mean reverting. So they sell into it, but then when you move away, now they're too short and they have to buy. And that's when a large enough one of these becomes sticky. Often it's not there in isolation, and depending on how spot moves or happens to volatility, that happens or not. So what do we see below 67.40? So we go up and come back down. We would stick there, but we don't have a lot below it. So if it can get down to, 35 is where we closed. If it goes down 5 or 10 points, there's really not a lot in the gamma world to stop it. Brings us maybe to 67.15, but it's only 200 contracts, 250 contracts. Calls, puts that were sold. So that's really nothing. Local buyers and sellers are going to come in. What do I mean by local? I mean today near the strikes that we're at. So people can come in and buy 67.25 puts, let's just say 1,000 of them or whatever it is, institution, and that totally whacks the distribution one way. Or they could buy 1,000, 67, 60, 67, 55, 67, 60, 80 call debit spreads. Why did I pick that? Because then if they bought 1,000 of them, this would be gone. These would be sold to them, quote unquote. And that would totally change the distribution. So you have to take this with a grain of salt, especially where there's smallish numbers. Where there's biggest numbers, like up here, 6,800, 8,000 contracts, unless something spectacular happens, we're not going there. We have some selling at 67.90. This is the shape of an iron fly, of a butterfly, but not exact, like a sold butterfly, so to speak, but not exactly even. So if by some miracle we get over 70, 65, 70, 80, you can kind of get sucked into the orbit of this 90, 80 up here, something. Again, I don't think it's going to happen. But you never know. News. The expected move today was about 30-ish. When I looked early in the morning, it's probably a little less now. Expected move now is probably, I'm going to guess, 27, something like that. So it would put us 55.60 on top. Makes sense. 6,700, 6,710 on bottom. Makes sense. And so volatility is telling us, the expected move is telling us that it's going to be a normal-ish day. And after the monkey business we had the last week, a day where we go up or down 10 points, I think I would like it as an iron condor seller. The people that have gotten used to like the crack high of the big moves are going to have to go to detox for a couple days. And that's just kind of where we are. And so the heat map shows the stall as we get up into this area, even as you get up to 65, you get some selling pressure from this. In this whole zone here, let's just whatever, let's say 67, 40, 30 in here. There's really not much that the market makers have to do. Toward the end of the day, it tightens up. And 67.30 to 67.70 become the range, and 67.40, what we're looking at now, becomes the pivot. However, that's probably not going to be the biggest long gamma strike by the end of the day. Typically, what happens during the day is that people come in and they sell volatility. I read a note that as soon as the VIX thing started peaking and calmed down, the vol sellers, me included, were back. Although me, not really, because I was away on vacation. And so the vol sellers are back. We should see our usual 100 wide gang selling stuff for tomorrow. It's too far out of the money to matter usually. We'll see the 5 wide iron condor gang probably selling iron condors. I'm going to model it out and guess where it's going to be today. And there's also 10 wide people that come in a little later in the day near those levels. And that typically frames the edges of the day. And that's it. So let's go back to this. So where do I anticipate the 5 and 10 wide gang is going to be? 5 wide gang, I like to be in the 6, 8, 7 delta, whatever it is. I like to be down here. They're probably going to be kind of where I am. They do 5. They'll probably be somewhere down here. Maybe 75, but I doubt it. Whoops. They'll probably be somewhere down here. Say between 75 and 65 is what they're going to sell on the bottom. At the top, so I guess say 75 top bottom-ish, or 80 something bottom-ish. Good morning, Danny. That's where they're going to be. Now the 100 wide gang will be coming in for tomorrow, and they like to sell the cheapy 2 or 3 deltas. They'll probably do something like this 100 wide. So just for fun, I'm not going to do it, obviously. They're going to do something like that. And that's only $9,000 margin to make whatever it is. Well, $9,000 to make 65 cents. But if you do it on a percentage basis, What is that? 65 bucks on $10,000 is what? Let's see, 65 bucks on $100 is 6%, 0.65, 6.5%. It's about 0.6%. That's not shabby. That's not shabby. You do it every day and suddenly you have a 20, 30% year. And once in a while you have to roll, you take a loss for a day or two. That's fine. I haven't seen them go in the money. I've seen them buy it back and roll. And that's what they do. It's a business. That's what they do. And you can do it too. Any questions, comments? Let me see what else. G earnings, levels of lines. I think, oh yeah, I promised you that we would look at this. This. It's not loading. Well, this is the beta. Let me just look at a regular one. Maybe that'll load better. This seems to be loading better. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. And we don't want to see Gex dollars. Let's just see position numbers. Okay. And let's broaden that out a little bit. Say 14, even though it's low. Now let's see 30 just for fun. Well, actually, let's go a little higher because we're going to look into next month also. And so right now we're around here. So we can get stuck below 18.5, and in this zone, the biggest number here is the 20s, but notice that's market maker short. 0.07, right? Thank you, David. 0.07%. That's not bad. So how much is that annualized? Do that times 5 and do that times, say, 250. So 20 market maker short, market maker long, customers have sold calls and puts there. So long story short, we ain't getting, unless something happens, it's going to be hard to get over 20, 17%. Perfect. That's about what I would have guessed. So you want a nice market return-ish, 17%. That's what these guys are going for. 17%, 20%, 25%, 15%, and that's it. That's what the fund does. If you want to make 17% a year, do that. And have a tough stomach. Don't let lizard brain grab the mouse and get you out. Could they have a blow up? Sure. Have they? I don't think so. They've rolled. I watched them. And so broadly between 16.5 and 18.5 is one zone. Between 18.5 and where we are 20 is another zone. We probably end up, this looks like a floor area. We probably end up here. The weeklies never have much of anything in VIX, which then brings us to, so this goes away, this goes bye-bye, and this has to be hedged. So what has to be hedged out for Wednesday? Let's see, over 20, there's some hedging that has to be done. And I saw a while back 2022s were bought. Looks like here they are. Then we had some buyers up here of the 32 calls. Looks like they're still there. And hedge stuff. So if we're near 20 to 22, that's where we can get some initial hedging reaction. But then once that's done, say sometime tomorrow, then this is a month away-ish. And once the deltas are hedged, and we can assume that most of these are hedged, but because of the 0 DTE or 1 DTE that's in the way, the mix might be a little off. Once these are hedged out tomorrow after expiration, then we switch from delta to gamma, and if the moves aren't outsized, then the hedging response starts being less extreme. Had what happened last week happened 2 days after expiry, I don't think we would have gotten as extreme moves. We would have gotten moves, would have been ugly, not as crazy. That's what I think. Now let's throw December onto this, because people are already working the quarterlies. Let's just do the easy one, range. Let's go to the end of the year. And in the Decembers, have your familiar pattern. Here the 20s are sold. One might all even argue or wonder, long 20 November, short 20 December. It could be a trade, selling a calendar. Notice we have it sold all the way down here. So the 5th, so 16. Kind of where people are saying the bottom could be, although there's some stuff at 15. Some long puts at 15. The bet that it might get under. I still have to play with this. This is a new feature because of the way the volatility of volatility goes and these things move. The hedging, when you look at the chart, just doesn't look like or feel like when you look at an SPX chart and SPX gamma levels. So I just have to get used to the magnitude. We had magnitude moves in VIX and VVIX, and the drops and pops that were pretty much historic, and I tweeted about that. If there's no more questions or comments, I think I'm going to wrap it up. Really not a lot to say. It's relatively simple. They gave me an easy day to come back on. They did me a flavor. Let's just see what these guys have. Goldman's, this guy, I have that note somewhere I didn't read it. Recent leaders have paused. Last leg has been unprofitable. Look at Microsoft chart. Oracle's potentially a good tell. I know Oracle faded, whatever. Same logic, NVIDIA or Broadcom is calling it. Bottom line, the real ask is if AI story cracks, keep Oracle on radar. Okay. Thanks, Rick. It's good to be back. And I have some goat pics that I'll post, my little good morning with the goats. Oh yeah, this was interesting. I saw a chart Commitment of traders. There we go. That's not the chart I was looking for. The depth of book commitment of traders that I saw. Net managers net, leverage money net. The book is narrow. I'm not sure where I saw it. It might have been on the Chicago Board of Trade's website. What's this screen? Oh, this is new. I never saw this toy. Not that this really, okay. Nice little heat map. Maybe I'll throw it into a chart. 5-day realized vol, 10-day realized vol. Now, this might be something that's decent to look at. That's the only thing they have there, context, volatility correlation. Let's look at what they have here. 3 months versus 1 month realized volatility. Now we know that obviously the 1 month realized volatility is going to be higher. So those funds that volatility control funds that allocate their assets based on shorter term are going to be selling, would have been selling, and probably did already. 1 month realized versus implied. And so you see, even with the crazy volatility, implied volatility has outpaced realized volatility. Take away plain English, selling volatility still pays. It really hasn't been, and this is a rolling number, so yeah, you could have gotten this fear VIX thing. Let's take with a grain of salt. Obviously, it was kind of extremely overpriced on that. And I'm not really sure what to make of this chart. I'm going to be honest with you. It's never really, I'm not sure how they calculate this. And so I don't know what's underneath the hood. So I just don't want to look at pictures and make up a story. Let's see, maybe we see it this way. What does that show us? Similar, vol was overpriced. Now it's kind of underpriced a little bit. But that's looking back. It's always a look back on what just was realized. That's it. Okay, I just took a peek at that for fun. Unusual whales. They have this periscope thing, which is kind of decent. Not great, not as good as option depth, not as good as mentor Q, but it's good. I like the cone. This doesn't look right. Oh, that's Greek scam. Okay, let's look at position number. And it kind of shows you the same thing. 30 and 40, kind of your stop zone. Now this is all expiry. So this is position number, but these down here apparently don't have a lot of gamma. Why? Because they're far away. But the reason I like to put on position number, yes, they're far away and they have no gamma, you don't have to think about it. But assuming that they stay and we're over here, suddenly they matter. So we can extrapolate what the response would be just by knowing, okay, if we go down, if we go below 67.30, there's not much. These are magnets, pull us down. Between 15 and 25 is nothing. We don't have an edge. That doesn't mean it can happen. It means I don't have an edge. And really pretty much free to move wider swings without interference from market makers until we get down there 6,700, where there should be some kind of reflexive buy, and unless VIX gets back to 20, 22, that's not going to break. Okay, that's it. It's nice to be back, everybody. Getting back in the swing of it. And expect me to go down some rabbit holes in the next few days. I went down a few rabbit holes while I was gone. Okay, there you go. See, I have a camera now, but I have to lean back, otherwise it like gives you a close up of my eyeball. And so I can say goodbye to everybody. If I lean forward to look at the chart, then you get a close up of my eyeball or close up of the back of my head. Neither of which make for interesting visuals. Okay. Take care, everybody.